Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So thank you for the wonderful invitation. This was extended by your organization, and I wanted to just pay a special thank you to Glenn Milgram, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for several years now. And he became aware of my company, Law Firm Mentor, because of what I do in the vein of helping law firms in particular to grow and scale, and most importantly, to get to a place where their business does not require them. So that is ultimately what we're going to talk about today. Even though my focus is on small and solo law firms, it is also applicable generally to any person who is in business, and that applies also to you all as mediators. And so with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive in. Okay, so as you can see, we're talking today about business planning for success. Business planning for success is, again, about understanding that the value of owning a business is that your business can function effectively without you. Now, you might be saying, I'm the mediator. How is that possible? How is it possible that I could be the one who could have the luxury of not choosing to be in the office and still have my income be consistent and stable, still have the freedom to come and go as I choose without it impacting the quality of my business? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So everyone here may not desire to have a business that runs without you, but you don't get to ultimate freedom unless you have a business that runs without you. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So in order for me to do this effectively, I'm going to take myself off video. We're going to be focusing on the slide deck. I know that your chat is disabled, so we would normally entertain questions. But if you have questions, I ask that you either hold them to the end, and I'm happy to entertain them there, or I will provide my contact information, and I'm more than happy to entertain questions by email after today's presentation. All right, diving in. As Judge Friends noted, Law Firm Mentor is my company. It is my second of two seven-figure companies, and I run those both contemporaneously in about 30 hours a week. That's because I love to work, but 30 hours a week effectively allows me to run two multiple seven-figure companies without too much stress these days. And the beauty of that is that that derived from everything that I learned that I'm going to share with you today. My company, Law Firm Mentor, helps solo and small law firm attorneys to grow revenues, crush chaos in business, and make more money. And in a nutshell, what that means is to create enough money so that you can buy yourself the convenience of not having to be a slave to your business. Crushing chaos in business refers to systematizing your business so that your business functions without your thought, your intellectual work product going into the nuts and bolts day-to-day how-to, but instead being focused on the actual service that you provide. And making more money, which of course is a desire of most people, but making more money isn't just about you and your profit. It is also about everyone that's in your ecosystem, right? It affords you the ability to compensate people well so that they are their best selves when they come to your business to represent you when working with your clients. So for those of you that are attorneys, if you're interested in learning more about how to systematize a business and become highly successful in owning a practice, check out our podcast, which is the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast. We're on all the major platforms, and you can get a lot of free information and guidance there. Now, a little bit about me as to why I'm here. So you know that I'm an attorney. I've been a family law attorney for 19 years. Yes, I'm one of those strange people that actually chose to subject myself to the most stressful practice in all of the practice of law. And I've been doing that for about 2 decades. And in that time, I have built quite a dossier. I have actually spent most of my time in the practice of family law dedicated to helping people involved with the child welfare system. But I do not take cases through the state of New Jersey, which means that people pay me my hourly rate, which is now $600 per hour, to help get their children out of foster care. So it is somewhat unique in the sense that it is referred to as a poverty practice, even though it is a multi-million-dollar practice, which of course doesn't make sense to most folks. But when you think about it, it really is about the idea that I always said I'm not going to discount my value when what I believe in is that I offer something of extreme high value to those that I serve. And that's a principle that is baked through what we're going to talk about today in terms of the quality of business that you're going to create for yourself and how you're going to help people to get better outcomes by paying you what you are worth to deliver them that service. In the time as a practicing attorney, I tried about 60 cases as a trial attorney. And I've also been a paid speaker for many years. Now, from there, I, of course, not only parlayed my success in law into a law practice, but I also converted that law practice into a business. And I have a variety of accolades that will support that. But ultimately, what I want you to glean from this, I don't want this to just be about me. I want you to understand kind of some of the things that we're going to talk about me, because it will support why it's beneficial for anyone in business. It's the idea that I grew it very rapidly. It did not require me decades of my life once I decided to create a business for that business to become financially successful for me and the people that I employ very quickly. And that is true for both of my businesses. As a result of that, I was able to create a coaching company that helps law firm owners to do the exact same thing, no matter what kind of practice they want. We currently have clients in 41 states. We currently have practices that span from contingency practices like personal injury and Social Security. We have subscription practices that tend to be business law. We have hourly practices, and we have flat fee practices. And every single one of them applies the tenets of the things I'm going to share with you in order to create sustainable, successful businesses that are profitable and that create a quality of life and a value to the public that our clients desire for themselves and for everyone they serve. So now we're going to talk about the key components of a business plan. The most important thing I want to really focus on is that there are several very distinct, distilled key points that we're going to talk about that each of you can apply starting right now to get yourself into more profit and more enjoyment in your business. So the very first thing that every business owner must have is you must create a vision. Now, this is not the Harvard Business Review, sit down and apply the formula to create your sexy business plan vision that you broadcast to the world to talk about the fact that you're a legitimate business, okay? This is small business vision, but it's big vision. So what I mean by that is you have to know where you want to end up in order to be effective at getting there and in order to get there quickly. If I were to tell you today that I want to get to California, most of you could probably give me some version of a pathway to get there. You might tell me, hey, you need to hop on a plane and fly from this airport to this airport in California. Or you might tell me, hey, I think the best way for you to get there is for you to hop on this train. Once you go a certain distance by train, you're going to get on a car. Then you're going to ultimately encounter a waterway. You're going to take some type of vessel across the waterway. You could give me the how-to. But the problem is all of you would have to assume or know where you're starting in order to be accurate in telling me the pathway to get to California. Right? No matter where you are in the world, that is true. It's true if you're in Florida, right? If you were to start giving me directions on how to get from Florida to California and you were presupposing that you were in New York, your directions would be wrong. And you'd probably figure out on the pathway that your directions are wrong, but most likely, before you figured it out, you would have wasted a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, and you probably would have gotten frustrated in the process. So that's why it's so important that you know where you're starting and where you're going in order to get there. So in the realm of business, what we're really talking about when we talk about having a vision is you have to know what kind of business you want to create. Do you want to be the producer, right? Many of you are mediators and you are the person that is delivering the key service in your business. So you are the producer, right? You are the one that delivers the service. You might be in a collection of people. So you might be one of several mediators. You might have a mediation practice in one part of the business, and maybe you have a litigation practice in another part of the business, or you might have other business services in your mediation practice. But ultimately, if you are the one serving the public through your service, you are a producer. Then there are those who want to both manage and produce, right? You want to be the one that's delivering the service to some degree, but you don't want to be the only one delivering the service because there tends to be more risk associated with being the only person to deliver the service. If you are the person that must be available when someone needs a mediator and you need to go on vacation, you get sick, you decide you're not in the mood today, whatever it is, You don't have the freedom to opt out of delivering that service because you're the only one delivering it. A manager has a little more freedom because a manager can delegate to someone working for or beside him or her and say, hey, I'm unavailable today. I'm not feeling well. Can you handle this? Now, recognizing, of course, in a practice like mediation, typically that's not a handoff practice. So that wouldn't normally happen on the day of. However, there is still the fluidity that would allow you to take extended time with someone else handling your load while you're gone. Now, owner as CEO is typically where you're going to get to the point of transcending a level of necessity of you in the production lines, right? You'll still be required for your business. A CEO still has work to do. A CEO is a visionary, right? They cast the vision, they assemble the resources, and they determine the team, and they ultimately connect the resources in the team. So that means deciding what the budgets are going to be more often than not. That means deciding who's going to be responsible for what in the business. Typically, in a small business, it includes things like hiring and firing, at least to some degree. But ultimately, if you get to the goal of being owner as CEO, you're not going to be the producer anymore. There are risks and there are rewards associated with each of these types. None of them is superior to another, except that as a CEO, if that is your function, you will have more freedom, which is what most people desire when they seek me out, okay? But again, there is no right or wrong here. It really is just a matter of clarity. Now, in order to get to that clarity, I'm going to pose some questions for you that I want you to think about. And I want you to have really considered whether or not in answering these questions for yourself, you have the answer or you need to get the answer. They're very simple questions, but they're very powerful. So the first one, of course, leads to the ultimate clarity, which is what business model do you desire for your business? Again, you have to know where you're starting and where you want to end up. If you don't know where you want to end up, you do what most people do, which is you go into business for yourself and you just continue to work harder until you feel it's time to retire or until you burn out of the business and decide to either sell it or close it. But what if you could decide for yourself today, I want to have a certain type of business, and in having that type of business, I am going to do certain things as quickly as possible to get to that type of business so that I can then start scaling that business. And by scaling, I don't necessarily mean creating the biggest business possible, even though for some of you that might be a goal. I mean scaling the things in the business that you desire, either scaling the time, so you have the time freedom that you desire, or scaling the money, so you have the economic freedom you desire, or scaling the purpose, i.e. so that you impact people the way you desire. But you don't truly get to the point where you can scale the value of the business, the thing that you like about the business, until the business is not sucking your time and energy with things that deflect away from your ultimate goal. So you have to think about what business model you desire. Next, what do you need to let go of in this year to create that model? Okay, that's a right now question. That's not what do I need to stop doing eventually. It's what do I need to let go of right now? It could be letting go of people. Whole lot of people I know, a whole lot of small businesses, small business owners that I know have such big hearts, and they hold on to people because they love them, or because they feel loyal to them, or because they just hate the idea of firing someone, but they don't ultimately hold clear to the vision when they are deciding which people should be or not in the business. Maybe it's letting go of practices that you have that don't serve you, right? If you have an accounts receivable and your client has not been called and you don't have an action plan for collecting that money and or exiting that representation or that ongoing engagement, you got a problem, right? Maybe that's something you have to let go of. Maybe you have to let go of working past 6 o'clock at night. Or maybe you have to let go of working past 5 o'clock at night. Or maybe you have to let go of working on the weekends, right? Again, what is the vision for the business that you desire? Not the one you have, not the one you think you can get a little bit better than what you have, but what you actually desire. Next question, what beliefs do you need to adopt to support your vision? Okay, there are a whole lot of people that have decided that they cannot have more in business because they are somehow oppressing others by taking more for themselves. If that's something that you believe, and that belief ultimately will hinder you in creating the business that you desire, that is a belief that you have to ultimately change in some way. So you need to replace it with a belief that is going to be more supportive. Now, creating a supportive belief doesn't just mean that you write down on a sheet of paper, as of today, I believe something completely different. It means that you decide what are the things that are holding you back? What are the thoughts that you are constantly rehearsing that are keeping you stuck in a business that you don't feel ultimately serves your life? And then what are the beliefs that you need, right? You don't just immediately start adopting those beliefs, but you have to at least know what they are. That could mean you have to believe that you are worthy of the fees that you want to charge. It could mean that you believe that your team should be held accountable to clear standards and objectives for their roles. It could mean that your ultimate quality of service needs to improve, right? That you can eventually get someone to a good outcome in a mediated settlement, but only after you have spent far too much time with them and kind of circled the wagons because you weren't prepared, right? Now, it doesn't mean when you think about the beliefs that you need to adopt, again, it doesn't mean that you're going to adopt them right away. It just means that you have to know what they are, because we're talking about clarity. All right, next, who do you need to add in order to achieve this business model? If you want to be the producer, you are still likely going to need other people in your business. That could be support staff, right? That could be people to facilitate the financials of your business. It could be someone else to collect the money. If you're not good at it, it still needs to be done. That might mean you need to outsource that. Or it could be, if you want to be the producer manager, that you have to ultimately hire others and you have to have some economic scalability in their compensation model, i.e., when you hire people, you can't pay them every single thing that they produce, because you need to have something left over to run the business, and of course, something left over for yourself in the profit margin. Do you need to add people in areas that are going to allow you to do more of the thing that you desire?
For 1 second, hold on. I would like to read the codes to you. Now, this is a code for this presentation. I'm giving it to you for the second time. There's one additional presentation. I will give you the code for that when we start. The code for this presentation with Allison Williams is 4396. If you miss it, come see me after the presentation and I will give it to you. 4396. Thank
you. Okay. And so when you think about, again, the people that you need to add, you need to be clear on what type of model that you want, because if you're trying to get to the end result, the desired model, the fastest, the one thing that will stand in your way is by adding people that will only get you a negligible benefit in an increase in whatever it is that you want, right? So if you want more money, you don't want to add people that are purely going to be an expense, right? And first of all, no one in your business should be an expense. Every person should have a KPI associated with how they make money for your business. However, if you start adding people that can only do things to slightly eke you ahead instead of people that can leapfrog you ahead, that's where you oftentimes will get into that scatter that says, I'm working harder, but I'm only getting a little bit ahead and it's not worth it. And that's where a lot of times people will develop the thought that having more money means having more problems, because you're only getting a little bit more money when you add another person. And every time you add a person, you had management responsibility, you add leadership responsibility. That person has to have an ascension plan for his or her career. That person has to function within the ecosystem of your culture, right? Managing people is not passive activity. And so you're adding activity, which tends to add stress if you don't manage that appropriately. And if you only have a little bit more money, at some point you say, another dollar is simply not worth it. All right. What beliefs do you need to adopt to add these members or activities, right? Adding people can be very challenging for a lot of us. Not all of us, but a lot of us, because from the moment that you add a person, you're going to encounter yourself, right? You have to be a better version of yourself in order to be an effective leader for other people. And whether you desire it or not, as soon as you add somebody to your ecosystem and you own the ecosystem, you are inherently a leader. Whether you're a good one or not, you are a leader. So you have to think about what it is that's going to be required of you in order to get these people in your ecosystem and serving your clients. Who or what is most likely to stand in your way? Okay. Now, this could be as simple as you have somebody in your business right now that's highly functional. However, as soon as you add another person, that first person gets jealous. That first person becomes toxic. That first person becomes less productive. That first person wants more of your time and attention. That first person feels jealous. That first person stops functioning the way that they did before. It could be that. Or it could be a partner. I've worked with several business owners who, as soon as they start making 2 times, 3 times, 4 times what they made in take-home income last year, it affects their interpersonal relationship. It affects gender dynamics. It affects the way that their family handles them, right? So oftentimes there becomes resistance in the building of a business that people don't contemplate until they're in the throes of it. And then they start doing things to self-sabotage because it is jeopardizing relationship. And then ultimately, what is your plan to address the people, the processes, and the patterns that may impede your success? Going into the start of business planning with a strategy for what's going to happen when things go wrong is the fastest and easiest way to ensure that when things go wrong, and they will, we all know that, right? When things go wrong, that you will have an action plan to get yourself through it. Because if you don't have an action plan to get yourself through it, a lot of people simply say, this is a sign, because all these things are going wrong, that I am not meant to build a business, which of course is not true. There is always an infinite amount of abundance in our universe. But if you have that belief, you're going to ultimately stop growing, and that's going to not serve you as the person desiring to create more for yourself. All right. I know that was a lot foundation wise, but I wanted to give you that from a foundation perspective. And now we're going to start going a lot faster, but it has to be all informed by the first section that we talked about, which is really the clarity of the vision. Once you have the clarity of the vision, all these other pieces become a lot easier from a tactical perspective, right? Most of us are well-educated. Most of us are information-seeking people. And as a result, if I give you a strategy on how to do something, you might not know all the ins and outs, but globally, you can start doing things and figuring things out. That's the reason why so many people listen to our podcast. We get thousands of downloads per episode at this point. And what we hear is that people listen to the podcast for a year or two because they know that if they just do what they're told on the podcast, they will start to actually see results, even without paying for the coaching service. All right. Number 2, after number 1, we have our vision. Number 2 part of our business plan is that you must remove everyone who jeopardizes your vision. Now, if you don't have anyone in your business, this still applies to you, okay? So remember, we talked about the idea of people being the people in the ecosystem, your staff, your colleagues. You could have someone who's a contemporary working alongside you. You could have somebody who works directly for you. You could have your spouse, your children, your friends, your colleagues, your ecosystem, right? People have an opportunity to influence us. So if you have anyone in your business or outside of your business who affects you in your business that jeopardizes your vision, you must remove them. And that is something I know is challenging to hear, because oftentimes the person who is most in need of being removed from our business is the person who is closest to us. And most of you are not going to go out and divorce your spouses as soon as we say, hey, you got to remove the folks that are in the way, right? Even though I'm sure there's a lot of divorce attorneys here, you're probably thinking that's probably a good thing for us. This is good for business. But no, I'm not actually a proponent of divorce, even though I am a divorce-trained attorney. What we're talking about here is ultimately making sure that you remove that person's negative influence on you from your life. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you have to do when you think about the people in your ecosystem is you have to think about if they are a fit for your business. And there are 3 key components to evaluating whether someone is a fit for your business. They are the attitude and the aptitude and the culture fit of the individual, okay? So we're gonna go over those 3 components right now. The first one is the attitude, right? What are the attitude characteristics that you require of your ideal hire? This is an example of a law firm scorecard. Again, it applies to any business that you have. This just happens to be one that was applied to a law firm. And so think about what you want the person to show up as in the way that they approach work in your business. And by the way, I think most of us can say we don't want someone with a, quote, bad attitude. But bad attitude is not universal, okay? We're talking about the attitude that you require of your hires. Perfect example. I remember as a young attorney, I interviewed at a law firm and I thought that I had just knocked it out of the park. I had great rapport with partner number one. I was invited back to meet with a panel of partners, had great rapport with all of them. They're asking me questions, I'm answering, it's going well. And then I get a letter in the mail, thanks, but no thanks. So I personally called the partner who invited me to interview and I said, hey, what gives? What happened? I'm stunned. And he said, we could tell by your attitude you weren't a fit for us. And I thought, well, what the heck was wrong with my attitude? I was happy, I was personable, I answered all of your questions, I thought I was clear. And what he shared with me was, we are looking for, now I'm going to say what he said to me. This is not the most politically correct thing to say in 2022, but what he said to me is, we are looking for Indians, not chiefs. We got chief energy off of you. And while we love chief energy when we're looking to add a partner, we don't want chief energy in our associates. So again, pardon the reference to chiefs and Indians. That was what he said. So that's what I'm repeating back to you. But I understood it. I understood exactly what he meant by that, right? They were looking for a certain way of being that I did not exude. So no matter how capable I was otherwise, no matter how much aptitude I had, right? I could write motions, I could argue cases, I was not a fit for what they needed. So when you think about the attitude of the people that you want to bring in, you might look for someone who has some attributes such as works well with others, if you're looking for a collaborative type of person. But if you want a person who's going to go in their office and do their work while you're in your office doing your work, you might want someone who prefers and ultimately achieves in working in an isolated setting. Right? Again, not right versus wrong, just different. So you have to respect that there are differences in people, and defining that before you hire is critical. And defining that as you elect to intentionally create a business is also very important, which means you might be evaluating the attitude of what you desire by looking at the attitude of what you have. And if you don't have what you want, that might be another conversation you have to have. Okay. Aptitude. Most people intellectually will interview for aptitude. You will look to have someone who is skilled technically in the work that you are doing. So you need to identify what that is. Now, you probably know it when you see it, right? You can identify if somebody knows how to facilitate conversation as a mediator, whether or not the person knows how to be respectful, knows how to play even-handedly with the people in the room, knows how to educate without advocating, right? All of those components of mediation, you are probably able to have those very clearly defined in your mind, but you should write them down and have clarity on that and assess periodically. Do you live up to those key tenets? Do the people that are working with you currently live up to those key tenets? And when you are hiring someone, what are the key tenets that you want those people to live up to as well? And then third and final components of your ideal hire and who might jeopardize your business is looking at the cultural fit. Now, cultural fit is hard to put into language for anyone who hasn't really thought about it. But conceptually, what you're talking about is the energy of your ecosystem, right? Are you looking for people who are highly competitive and want to have a very big career, right? The name and lights folk. Or are you looking for people who are very much kumbaya, we all hold hands, we're all in this together? Again, nothing right or wrong about either of these types of people, but they fit well and not so well in different environments, right? So you need to think about your environment. Are you a very formal person, right? You come to work every day in a suit and tie. Do you have a very formal business structure, right? There are hierarchies. Everyone is Mr. or Ms. So-and-so. Or do you have a very laid back culture? Everybody's in jeans and t-shirts, right? If you're not seeing a client, you're there in your pajamas with your hair in a bun on the top of your head, right? We're kicking up our heels here. Are you in an environment that uses profanity, right? Or are you very straight-laced in your language? Again, not right versus wrong, just different. So when you think about what you want to define in your culture, whether it is what you have now or what you are aspirationally creating, it is important that you look at the attitude, aptitude, and fit of your ideal hire and whether or not the people that you have in your ecosystem jeopardize that ideal. For those of you that are in law businesses, even those of you that are not, you're welcome to get this resource. However, this is specifically tailored for law firms. You can get a culture scorecard. We just walked you through what it looks like, attitude, aptitude, and fit. You can get a culture scorecard at lawfirmmentor.net. That is my company website. /culture-scorecard. And again, in your materials, there is a copy of the slide deck, so you have those links available to you there as well. Okay, the third component of your business plan, you must add people at the top of the food chain. Now, this is challenging for a lot of people. Most folks, when they start adding humans, they add people at the lowest cost. And it's important that we do understand that we always want people who are the least expensive to the business doing work that they are most qualified to do, right? So you want the most qualification at the least cost to your business for every service in your business, whether it is filing papers or it is marketing the service or it is delivering the service. However, when we talk about adding people at the top of the food chain, we are talking about simply thinking. Who is doing the thinking in your business? Are you the only person who is doing the thinking in your business? If so, the great likelihood is that your business does not have enough thinkers. Because no matter how bright you are, you might know what you desire in terms of a vision, but almost invariably, there is something that you are not seeing about your business in terms of the people, the processes, the marketing, the sales systems, the ecosystem, the financials, right? There's something you're going to miss because you are looking outward from yourself, right? You are the center of your universe. Someone looking from you inward, someone who is from the outside of you looking inward, looking at you, can see a lot more, right? So I want you to think about who's doing the thinking and ultimately ask yourself, right? Am I the only person thinking in the business? If you are the only person thinking in the business, you can address that without hiring someone, right? If you don't desire to be anything other than owner as producer, you can absolutely get additional thoughts, right? That can come in the form of a mastermind, that can come in the form of a mentor, that can come in the form of a business coach. However, you need to have someone other than you thinking in your business. And that typically is going to evolve your business much faster than if you are the sole thought process that leads the evolution of the business. All right, fourth component of a business plan. Fourth component, you must diversify your marketing. Now, marketing for most people is something that they think of as a tactic, right? If I say marketing to the average small business owner, you're going to say something like, well, you know, what's on my website, maybe what's on my social media handles. Oh, you know, I went to a trade show. All of those are marketing tactics. But when we talk about diversifying marketing, we're talking holistically about creating a marketing plan. So what you see on the screen in front of you right now is a funnel, okay? Funnels are wide at the top, narrow at the bottom. And the general conception of marketing that I want to share with you is the idea that you typically are going to have a lot of people at the top of the funnel, people who are eyes on your message, but you're going to have a very, very small microcosm of that pool of people, the people that actually saw your message, who are your clients. So let's walk through what that looks like, okay? At the very top of your funnel, you're going to have what's referred to as impressions. Impressions are eyes on your message, okay? I'm going to abbreviate it that way. It ultimately is a communicated message from your ecosystem that tells people about your business. But again, that's any and all people that could see the message. So a billboard, an impression would be every car that drives past the billboard. Now, we know that if you were to market yourself on a billboard, it is not true that every single person that drives by the billboard needs your service, right? It'd be great if they did. We'd all be rich. But every person that drives by that billboard does not need your service. But every person that saw that message is considered an impression. From the very top, down one layer, you see it gets narrower as we go down. Down one layer are the leads. Now, the leads are the people who desire your service. They are in need of and in want of your service. Okay. Now, I say in want of your service. In want of your service does not mean they've hired you, right? We get further down till we get to that point. But that means they say, I have a problem and I want to solve it. We know plenty of people who have problems that they have no desire or intention to solve. Those people are not leads, okay? Those people might be impressions. They might have seen your message. They might understand from your message that you could help them. But if they don't need your service and want your service, i.e. they're not gonna pick up the phone, they're not gonna have a conversation with you, they're not gonna come schedule a consult, Those people are not leads, okay? Once you get into the leads bucket, here is where a lot of people break down.
We're actually running a little late, so if you could wrap it up, I don't want to cut you right off. So wrap it up the next couple of minutes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to finish talking about this funnel, and then I'm going to give you the other points that you need of a business plan. And again, this slide deck is available in your materials. I'm going to give my contact information. So if you would like to have anything else that is not reflected in the materials, or you have questions about the materials, you can always reach out. Okay. So beyond your leads, you want to get into viable leads. Who are the people, who are the humans that are viable? These are people who want and need your service that you want to give your service to. This is the part that we often miss, right? You're creating a business that you desire. You are not a slave to anybody who wants to hire you. You decide. Who are the people that you would decide to work with? That's top of the funnel. That's marketing. The bottom of the funnel is sales, right? Who schedules the appointment? How many of those people actually show up for the appointment, and how many of those become new clients? Okay. Now, from here, from our marketing, I want you to keep in mind that the next 3 components of your business plan I'm going to give you, and then we're going to give the summary, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay. You must optimize your intake department. That is selling people on the idea of coming to meet with you. You must operationalize that in order to get the best bang for your buck. A lot of opportunity is lost when we don't get the people who call the office to actually schedule an appointment. The next thing you have to consider is you have to learn how to sell. Selling is not a dirty word. Selling is not convincing someone to hire you. Selling is simply understanding how to provoke in a person a desire that is already there, that they act upon the urgency to solve their problem. And once you learn how to do that and do that effectively, you will be very, very pleased with the outcome, because then it's a win-win for you and that person. And then finally, the one thing I always love to tell people is that you must crush chaos by systematizing everything in your business. Everything in your business must be on autopilot. You cannot run a business if you have to think through every challenge, from where is the mail to did I get this on the calendar to where is my paperwork for my next mediation. You have to have everything running with automaticity. So again, business freedom comes from creating a vision, removing everyone who jeopardizes that vision, adding people at the top of the food chain to help you effectuate that vision, diversifying your marketing, optimizing your intake department, learning how to sell people into your service, and ultimately systematizing the entirety of your business. Now, for those of you that are attorneys that are looking to do something more with your business than you've done on your own, there is a link for you to be able to reach out to us. It's at a bit.ly. I shortened it because it's a little easier. It's bit.ly/LFM-grow. There you can schedule an appointment to have a conversation absolutely free, where we walk you through what is needed in your business and whether or not we are the resource to help you to do that. Again, I am Allison Williams. I'm known as the Law Firm Mentor. You can find out more at lawfirmmentor.net. Thank you to the New Jersey Association of Professional Mediators for inviting me here. And I turn the floor back over to Judge Ferenz.
Thank you, Allison. That was terrific. And you ended perfectly.